Since expanding from 50,000 square feet at its initial opening in 1983 to over 400,000 square feet in its 1986 expansion, the footprint of one of the world's largest indoor amusement parks hasn't really changed much. Sure, there has been a shuffle of rides, attractions, layout, and even theming, but the record-breaking footprint of the park remains unchanged in the 35 years since the park's unveiling. Even at its initial grand opening, at a fraction of the size at which it exists today, Fantasyland was the world's largest indoor amusement park, a title which it cemented after expanding, and one which it held for decades. From the earliest days of the park in its home at West Edmonton Mall, ambitions were sky high. From the record-breaking heights of the world's tallest drop ride to the longest indoor roller coaster in the world, excitement and expectations for the park was limitless. That excitement, however, was tragically cut short. During normal operation on the evening of June 14th, a mere 3 months after its expansion grand opening, Fantasyland's most iconic ride suffered a fatal accident. A manufacturer's defect in the wheel assembly caused the bolts to come loose and resulted in the car's derailing. 3 people lost their lives. The accident resulted in a complete redesign of the coaster's train cars, as well as a renewed and laser-focused emphasis on safety in the park. This approach has led to a near-flawless safety record in the park since 1986, but the accident does remain an undeniable part of the park's history. In the years that followed Fantasyland's second phase grand opening, there were significant changes to the roster of rides and attractions. Among the earliest to depart was the Space Probe. The blowers used to propel the ball which held riders would often fail, resulting in frequent downtime and expensive repairs. So, its single-person ridership wasn't worth the trouble of keeping the ride around. And it wasn't long before other rides were also removed and replaced. Harbor Cruisers, the covered boat ride, which pulled riders along a set path through the lake, experienced issues from day one. The cable which pulled the boats around would wear and break, leaving passengers stranded in their vessels. The covered boat tour was eventually replaced with free-roaming paddle boats. The smaller version of the merry-go-round might have been a cute idea in practice, but proved to be an unnecessary attraction within the park. A full-sized carousel, like the one just inside the main gates, is one of the tamest rides in an amusement park, so a smaller version just doesn't make sense. The Kiddie Caravan was replaced with the original implementation of the Moto Jump. The dropping parachute ride was also removed, with its location becoming home to an SR2 motion simulator, and later, the Dragon Wagon. Over time, many of the most prominent rides were removed and replaced, along with some of the most impressive theme and decor features within the park. Much of these changes and rethemes were sparked by a single development, one which we now know had been coming down the turnpike from a decade before, one which takes us all the way back to opening day. With the champagne flowing, ambitions for the park and the mall itself were at an all-time high, but elsewhere in the world, a letter was being dropped into a mailbox. It was from the Disney Corporation. It was addressed to those in charge of the world's largest shopping mall, and it contained an objection. You see, way back in 1955, Walt Disney opened the doors to what is inarguably the world's most iconic amusement park, Disneyland. Laid out over 160 acres, the park was home to lands which have stood the test of time, representing the world of the future, Tomorrowland. For the thrilling, Adventureland. The time of yesteryear, Frontierland. And, among others, a world of fantasy.
A few words of dedication for the happiest kingdom of them all, Fantasyland.
Disneyland's prominent castle gates lead visitors directly into Disney's Fantasyland. So, you can only imagine how high their eyebrows must have gotten when they heard tell of another amusement park. One residing in the Great White North. One which was opening under the name Fantasyland. Their objections to West Edmonton Mall's use of the Fantasyland name kept coming for over a decade, until, in 1994, it all came to a head. Disney had filed suit. And despite a passionate and fierce battle defending their use of the name Fantasyland, the end result was a ruling against West Edmonton Mall. West Edmonton Mall was no longer allowed to use the name Fantasyland for their amusement park. They were allowed to keep using the name for their on-site hotel, however. After a brief period where the park operated simply as the amusement park at West Edmonton Mall, it reopened under a new name and a new theme: Galaxyland. Though the original concept art for the park's expansion showcased a serious and classic sci-fi style implementation of a space theme, what came to be was a little different. What was, at one time, envisioned to be something you might see out of Star Wars, now resembled something you might see in a cartoon. The Fantasyland Express train ride became the Galaxyland Express, and was rethemed from a steam locomotive to a wacky rocket ship. The mountainous, maze-like kids area, which originally resembled an outdoor landscape, was transformed into the purple-peaked Galaxy Kids. Though its play area was expanded with a new climbing platform, parts of it were removed. The long blue slides, the dark caves, the oversized dominoes, and the expansive ball pits, all gone to make room for a new theme. Original advertisements for the park's opening had featured mention of an attraction called Merlin's Haunted Laboratory. Featured inside of dark tunnels throughout the kids' play area, animatronic figures delighted and playfully frightened children. Until now, we had nothing but rumors about what happened to Merlin the Wizard, who once occupied Fantasyland's so-called Haunted Laboratory. Rumors about how, even though the tunnels themselves have been blocked off, something remained in those haunted caverns. It seems that, sitting alone in decades of darkness, something from the original decor does exist in those eerie pathways below the mountain paths above. On the walls, skeleton hands point in directions of unknown relevance. Fuzzy ghoul-like creatures, with attempted silly faces, sit staring into the void of the darkness. And, still standing guard in his original domain, lives Merlin the Wizard. His gray beard and gray skin sitting in utter stillness, waiting for a day which, perhaps, will never come, when his haunted laboratory will see the light of day and hear the laughs of children once again. Over time throughout the park, original installations such as the Disco Dynamo, Perilous Pendulum, Zipper, and Orbitron were replaced with rides like the Solar Flare, the Sonic Storm, the Galaxy Twister, not to be confused with the Sonic Twister, the Rockin' Rocket, and the UFO Maze. The water features were eventually removed as well. The lake where the children's bumper boats, and later remote-controlled boats, once lived, eventually started leaking into the cinemas below, and it was eventually removed, replaced with the party rooms which exist at Galaxyland today. Elsewhere, the Pinnacle water feature was also causing maintenance nightmares, and it too was drained. Though, for a time, its area was used for late-night dance parties at Galaxyland. Rockin' Ride was the go-to destination for many teens, myself included, where the lights were dimmed and a large dance floor was opened up on what would have been the lake bed. The rides would twist and turn while music filled the park. As the years went by, the memories of fantasy began to fade. While for some it seemed like only yesterday when the facade of old-timey buildings and mountain landscapes graced the park, younger generations which now grew up visiting the park only associated it with its galaxy theme. The drastic change in theming, which once seemed jarring to those who loved the old-timey atmosphere, became the norm, and eventually, the loved. Those who have become fond of West Edmonton Mall's iconic amusement park in the last 25 years know it only as Galaxyland. And instant classics like the Galaxy Orbiter and Havoc have joined the ranks, adding to the variety of rides in the park. And, as of just recently, yet another shift in theme is coming to the park. While still retaining the title of Galaxyland, it will be powered by the iconic toy and game themes of Hasbro. With cautious optimism at the potential end to a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic event, we'll get to discover a familiar amusement park, injected with a new energy. And when we do, we'll take a moment to stop and remember the past. As we watch Mr. Potato Head, Monopoly, and Operation take over the wall games, we'll look past the toys to the old-timey facades of Fantasyland. As Galaxyland transforms into a Hasbro-powered experience, think about where it all began. A park less than half of its current size. one without roller coasters or thrilling drops. A park which expanded quickly, reinventing indoor amusement. And while we were treated to some awesome realizations of what the fantasy could be, we also have to deal with the disappointment of what never was. From the swing of the century to the perilous pendulum, the disco dynamo to the Orbitron, and from the mindbender to the daring drop of doom. As we step into the future at Galaxyland, powered by Hasbro, never forget where it all began. Canada's Fantasyland.